Welcome back to another episode of the Tax Studio Sessions. I'm Amanda McConey, and in this podcast, we aim to turn your tax worries into tax wins by helping you navigate the financial landscape. In today's episode, we are going to be doing something a little bit different and dive into the psychology of spending. What drives us to splurge and how we can outsmart these urges. So if you've ever wondered why you can't resist a sale or why shopping feels so good, then this episode is just for you. Let's start with the emotional side of spending. Spending often isn't about what we need, it's about how we feel. Retail therapy is such a common thing. I do it myself and I know that we shouldn't, but retail therapy is not a new thing. Everyone has done it at some point in their lives. Shopping releases dopamine, which is the feel-good chemical, and that's why it feels so good to buy something new, and it can help to temporarily lift your mood. Like I said, we've all done it before when you're maybe having a really stressful week at work, or perhaps things just haven't gone the way that you want them to. I know it can always feel so good to order a new coat, or order new shoes, or sometimes even to book that last-minute holiday just to make yourself feel a bit better. This is how we can get caught up in that dopamine rush and honestly sometimes unnecessarily spend money that we really shouldn't. Another factor is social influence, especially in this day and age of social media that we live in. It's so easy to get wrapped up in this person has this and now I want it, or my friend has this and now I want it. Even if it's a good thing, sometimes it might just be a really good recommendation that you've received and you want to have whatever it is. That social proof at work, being influenced by society in one shape or another to buy something. Another sort of reason why we do tend to splurge can be a scarcity mindset. We've spoken about this previously in our money mindset episode, and this can be things like, oh, there's only 2 items left in stock, or if we see a sale that says offer ends tonight, that creates a sense of urgency within us, making us spend impulsively. So how can we outsmart this impulsive need? How can we work to spend smarter and not just spend because we need a bit of retail therapy or because we're stuck in a scarcity mindset? The first thing that I would say would be to pause before purchasing. Try to implement the 24-hour rule. Wait a day before making any non-essential purchases. This can be such a great trick and help you save so much money. I think a lot of the times you'll end up realizing that you don't really need whatever it is that you were going to buy. Another great tip that I would say, I've heard this a lot and I'm sure that some of you have as well, is that if you can't afford to pay for something twice, then you can't afford it at all. So for example, if you would like to buy a pair of shoes for £150, if you do not have £300 spare that you could allocate towards your shoe purchase, then you really shouldn't be buying that pair of shoes in the first place. You don't need it, it's just something that you want, and clearly your budget is telling you that you don't have the money for it. Another tip that I would give is to set shopping boundaries. Create a list before you go shopping and make sure you stick to it as much as you can. This will help you to prevent impulsive buys. We've all done it before. Even if you go food shopping when you're feeling a little bit hungry without a list, that is the biggest sign of danger ever. You end up buying everything in sight just because you're feeling a bit hungry and you don't have guidance. You'll get to the till and realise that you spent £50 over your initial budget just because you've not set boundaries before you go. Another tip that I would give would be to budget for fun. Allocate some guilt-free spending money each month, just a little bit of money for going out to eat, for dinners, even small things like just budget a little bit of money to grab your coffees. Having a set amount for treats makes it a little bit easier to resist overspending. The last sort of tip that I would give would be to unsubscribe from temptations. I know that quite a lot of people do this, and especially I guess now that we're sort of nearing the end of the year, I try to do it, and I know that quite a couple of people do as well, in terms of sort of detoxifying your social media. So you have a look through whatever accounts it is that you followed, perhaps at the beginning of the year or during the middle of the year, and these accounts, while they might be great, can perhaps lead you to spend a bit more money. Whether you're following someone who is constantly eating out and that makes you want to eat out all the time as well, or you're following someone who perhaps is living an amazingly privileged life and they're able to spend loads of money, and that makes you want to do the same thing. Having a little detox of your social media accounts and from even unwanted email. Sometimes we can get caught up in the hype of just saying subscribe to everything for 10% off here and 20% off there. Have a little time for detox. So I definitely would factor this in to your sort of new year, new me pledge. Have a look at this, because out of sight means out of mind, and it will help you to not impulsively spend when you can avoid it. Now, mindful spending, while it can be very difficult, has so many long-term benefits. Smart spending doesn't just save money, it will also help to bring you peace of mind. One way that you could do this is to improve your financial health. Having less debt and more savings is a great way to begin. We've mentioned it before, the snowball effect. Start small when it comes to your debt. Clear the smallest one first and work up the momentum to clearing the really big ones. Make sure that you align your values. Spend money on what truly matters to you. Me and my brother speak about this sort of thing all the time, that there isn't necessarily so much a thing as something being expensive. A lot of the times it depends on what matters to you. To one person, giving £100 to charity is absolutely nothing for them, because that means a lot to them, because that's something that aligns with their values. Whereas this is the type of person who would perhaps be reluctant to spend £100 on shoes or £100 on a new bag. And I know that I've used two very sort of different examples, but this can apply in anything and everything. You might not be willing to spend £200 for a concert, but if you really do love that artist and you really want to go see them, then that money will be worth it to you. Make sure you spend on what truly matters to you. So if traveling is your priority, cut back on eating out, cut back on small subscriptions that you don't really need. Work towards what is really important to you and redirect your money into what matters the most. This is the best way to make sure that you're using your money in a way that truly benefits you and gives you great joy out of it too. Another little tidbit that I could perhaps say is that less financial stress often means healthier relationships. While this has been a relatively short episode, I really do hope that it's at least piqued your interest into the psychology of money and to perhaps how you think about money a little bit more. There's a really great book called The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed and Happiness by Morgan Housel. I would really recommend this book. I loved it and I've definitely learned a lot of great nuggets from this, and it covers a lot more of what we've spoken about in depth and will really help you to dive into the psychology of money to better understand your emotions, the biases, and to most importantly improve your personal finances. Remember, mindful spending isn't about deprivation, it's about intention. So share this episode with someone who could use a little bit of spending wisdom, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode. Have a lovely day. Bye.